For those of you who we haven't met yet, my name is Llorenç Milà Canals. I work in the United Nations Environment Program, and among different things, we lead the Life Cycle Initiative. We have been hosting the Life Cycle Initiative since 2002, and that's the context of today's presentation. The work that we have been doing towards a global life cycle assessment platform. And with me, you will also recognize Archana Datta, who is coordinating the day-to-day of the Life Cycle Initiative. And probably you may have noticed also Fernando Gareta Cesar, who is doing his internship, finalizing his internship with us. And you've been probably receiving a lot of emails from him and interacting with him. So thanks for the team to support. Today, I'll try and be relatively brief in going through several slides that present a bit the idea that we have of this global LCA platform, but we're hoping to leave as much time as possible in the end for answering your questions and well, also explaining the next steps and hopefully getting you engaged in the next steps for this platform. So again, for those who have joined a bit later, just to say that this meeting is being recorded, and therefore by staying in the meeting, you're accepting that the meeting is being recorded, and we will also use the recording of the webinar to further disseminate the idea of the platform and hopefully get more people engaged in it. Okay. So having said that, again, now I'm not sure how many participants we already have, but it's a really good number of you, and we're extremely grateful that you've managed to make the time, even though we didn't manage to publish or to set the time as long ago as we wanted to do. So thanks again for your interest and your participation in what I'm sure will be an interesting development. Well, not just interesting, a very exciting development for LCA in the future. And the idea of today's webinar is obviously to share with you what this global LCA platform vision is. What is it that we're thinking about? It's not something completely new. We have to say we've been working towards this idea for a number of years, but we think it's now time to shift up, to gear up 2 or 3 years actually in making this a reality. We also see that it's a good time in terms of the interest and in terms of the opportunity that is being generated by many initiatives worldwide. So the idea is basically to describe the vision for this LCA platform, and then also to discuss the next steps. We will be discussing the practicalities as well of what are the next steps for the platform, what are the working groups that we're setting up, that we are thinking of setting up. These working groups come from obviously a well-thought process, but what we're presenting today is also not set in stone. So it's the time to engage in this, and if you think we have something that needs to be modified, today is the day to raise this today and the coming days and weeks. So obviously we will be wanting to hear all your feedback, and hopefully towards the end of this session today, you will be really wanting to engage fully with the platform. You've already engaged by joining today's webinar, but hopefully you will be convinced that this is the initiative to jump on and then helping us to deliver it. Okay, so I think with this we'll be moving. So as I said, we will be discussing a bit more the details and the timeline of what we're planning to do in the coming months and years towards the delivery of this platform. And the first, to start with, the purpose and the vision is to have this kind of one-stop platform for LCA. Don't get me wrong, one-stop platform doesn't mean that this would be the only platform, but this is the space where we're hoping that anybody wanting to use LCA to strengthen the use of LCA in policies, in decision-making, will find here a neutral place that facilitates the access, the interoperability, and the capacity to apply LCA. So anything that needs to be there to apply LCA and to engage with LCA meaningfully should be in this platform. This platform is totally in line in terms of the objectives with the Global Environmental Data Strategy, or GEDS, that has been requested from UNEP by the member states, and which will be hopefully endorsed. It's been going through a long period of consultations in the last year or year and a half, and it will be endorsed hopefully in the next United Nations Environment Assembly in December. So the idea, of course, is this global environmental data strategy is definitely much broader than LCA, but the idea here is, well, UNEP is working towards this commitment of data-driven environmental decision-making. This gets, by the way, for those of you who don't know, and I failed to mention, we will be sharing the slides and we will be sharing every other piece of document, although you will have seen as well in the TRs that were shared a link to the Global Environmental Data Strategy. As mentioned, this has been developed in response to the call from member states as part of a resolution to address the barriers in leveraging environmental data for decision making, because the data ecosystem, if you want, is a bit fragmented. Sometimes the data are not interoperable. Access is limited. I'm sure all of these things that have been described in general for environmental data, you will feel very related to in terms of LCA data. So we also have a bit of fragmentation there in terms of format, in terms of interoperability, in terms of comparability of the LCA resources that exist, and certainly the access is also something which is an issue. And the idea is to facilitate more access, more interoperability, more understandability and comparability, higher quality of all of these data, enough capacity to use these data in order to support global, regional, and national efforts to address the triple planetary crisis of climate change, pollution, and biodiversity loss. So again, all of these elements and the link to the higher level of this global environmental data strategy of UNEP make it was essentially to position this idea of the vision for a global LCA platform. And as you see in this slide here, this is a graph, I think, a diagram that many of you will have seen in the past, hopefully, or at least versions of this, because as I mentioned, this idea of a global LCA platform is not truly new. We have been working in UNEP, at least for the last 11 years, on something that eventually led to the Global LCA Data Access Network, GLAD, that many of you are connected with and support. But we think that, well, we advanced significantly with GLAD. We acknowledge that GLAD has allowed us to advance on many fronts, but we need to probably put it one step up or bring it 2 or 3 levels up. The idea of this platform, as I mentioned, would be to have this one-stop shop where we're talking not just about the data, and in terms of data, facilitating the search, facilitating the conversion, facilitating also the hosting of data where it's necessary. But it's bringing the data kind of aligned and connected through everything that is necessary to make the data more interoperable. So in terms of metadata descriptors, of the flows nomenclature, facilitating analytics as well of how data are being used around the world, etc. And connect this as well with everything that is necessary in terms of impact assessment. So here we've been working, as most of you know as well, on the GLAM, the Global Life Cycle Impact Assessment method. But it's not just about the products that we have today from the Life Cycle Initiative or from UNEP. It's really about facilitating a library, if you want, of methods where we find interoperability of all the methods properly connected with the data sets, with the databases, through consistent methodologies, consistent nomenclature, etc. And obviously facilitating also hub for capacity development and for the technical help desk. So ensuring that, particularly in developing countries, but also in those stakeholder groups that maybe still don't know enough about LCA, that we can facilitate the understanding of what life cycle assessment is about. Why is it important to use life cycle assessment, for instance, in policy making, but not just okay, we need to use LCA. It's how do we use LCA to ensure that it still keeps its robustness and credibility. We avoid the use or the abuse of LCA, as we have seen also for greenwashing, etc. So putting all of these elements together into this platform, jointly, kind of tightly joined by a strong governance that ensures its transparency, its neutrality, its independence and robustness. So we can then continue delivering for the many users that are out there. So we are strongly connected with LCA method developers. We are connected with software developers and with data developers. But the idea is for all of these professionals, for instance, to be able to interact more directly as well in what we think is something missing out there, which is an LCA professional forum. We see platforms emerging that are trying to bridge these gaps, but then sometimes these platforms are happening within a country or within a specific sector. And we believe that it will help if we try and do this across sectors, across countries, based in a UN in a UN context. And that all of that also obviously not just to serve the LCA professionals and the experts, but also those users that can be directly the LCA practitioner, but also policymakers, decision makers in businesses, etc. And obviously continuing the connection as well with the LCA expert users or researchers who keep developing and improving the methodology. Anyway, it's a lot to take in for just a small graph, but hopefully that gives you an impression of what is it that we're trying to do. And obviously, I mean, we can go back to discuss any more details about this later, but also just insisting that this is all in the making. So this is a vision that we think is shared by many of you because we've been working on it for many years. Hopefully it captures elements that you see as necessary. I mean, we see a lot of evolutions also in terms of new databases that are becoming available. We hear as well the environmental footprint database, for instance, from the EU that will become available, a 4.0 version with much more open access to data sets that would kind of lower the barriers for application of LCA. But we see also a lot of progress happening, for instance, from China. We've been seeing also similar initiatives, maybe less on the open source, but certainly the initiatives on facilitating the access to data in the US, in Japan, in Brazil, in Ecuador, in South Africa. We see a lot of these needs. We see the policies which are really taking up on, we really want to use LCA for our decisions, but for that we need to facilitate the access to data. And the idea is to avoid or try to prevent that this happens all in disconnected ways that would result in, well, we have interesting data here and interesting data there, but we do not talk to each other. Maybe they have been modeled also in different ways. They are incompatible. So how can we facilitate the harmonization and the similar approaches in all of these? So we can actually add all of these efforts and make the result much stronger. And all of this, as I was mentioning, I mean, we want to bring it together under this strategic alignment in the context of the governance of the UN to ensure neutrality and credibility of these approaches, facilitating that it's governed by a multi-stakeholder steering committee that we have currently in the Lifecycle Initiative. That's the current idea, but probably that even the steering committee might need to evolve as well to consider this broader scope of this global LCA platform. And obviously for this, we're hoping to get to a funding mix, bringing in public institution funds, but also private sector, and facilitating that the private sector can also contribute to maintaining this, which is in the interest of everybody who is using LCA. And obviously, as usual, also we expect in-kind contributions from scientists, from experts, from all of you in the call. I mean, of course, I think today we have a very mixed audience, so probably you can all feel that you can really contribute in different parts, but hoping that creating this space for interaction and for exchange of expertise, of ideas, can also facilitate this alignment of approaches and methods. So now we're gonna kind of move to kind of, after presenting this this initial vision, I'm just gonna go in the next, and I have many more slides, but we'll go into a bit more details of what we have already been advancing. And in this slide, I want to mention this workshop that many of you have participated in or heard about. This is a workshop that was co-organized in July by the Life Cycle Initiative with our colleagues from Tsinghua University, the University of Padova in Italy, and the Energy Foundation in China, who provided funding also for this workshop. And actually, we've also been asked, and I want to to make it clear here, because it's like, oh, so is this platform an idea that, you know, Tsinghua and Life Cycle Initiative and University of Padova are pushing forward? Not really. This is, as I said, this is a vision that we've been having for a while. We're extremely grateful that the colleagues of Tsinghua University have really helped us to step up and to advance on a lot of these discussions. But as mentioned, I mean, we're hoping that actually many of you also want to jump on that opportunity to help contribute, as you have been contributing as well for many years. But this is still very much the vision that the UNEP, the United Nations Environment Programme, wants to push forward in terms of facilitating this platform for LCA. Anyway, this workshop was extremely useful also in bringing together many of you to help us shape a bit more what this vision would mean in practice. What do we need to bring this vision to reality? And on that, I mean, of course, we also heard, and that was very, very encouraging, that there is that strong support and very much alignment towards this shared vision for the global LCA platform as a unified system that facilitates and improves the access to data, to methods, models, capacity building tools, essentially to facilitate and to improve sustainable decision making worldwide. We also heard the shared perspective or alignment in terms of, okay, the vision is great, but also we want it now. And we want to have it soon, because we are already seeing that there's, as mentioned, there's a lot of initiatives out there. And we want to ensure that they don't kind of evolve too much in a separate way, that we bring initiatives together so we can make the most of the synergies that are possible today and might be a bit more difficult tomorrow. Again, this consensus on well, we want to have harmonized and cost-effective LCA tools, and I would say LCA assets, data, methods, etc. And on this, certainly the decade-long contributions from the Global LCA Data Access Network, GLAD, the contributions that GLAD has made on harmonization, on bringing together the community around, for instance, metadata descriptors, around a system to bring together the nomenclatures. That was acknowledged, that was recognized, but also it was recognized that this is not enough, and we really need to shift gears, which is why we're having this meeting today. You have also, by the way, hopefully you all have received the link to the report of that workshop, so you can have all of the information as well in that workshop. I won't stay much longer there in terms of explaining the workshop, because really the workshop was just one step in what we're trying to do. And probably the main takeaway from the workshop was getting into a bit more details of what could be the key areas of work that we need to advance in order to deliver on this global LCA platform. And this resulted in this initial description of these 4 working groups that you see on your screens, and hopefully the letters are not too small, but the idea is to get to this global platform that is connected, interoperable, that generates mutual trust. And for that, we had this description of the 4 working groups, as I was mentioning. One dealing on platform governance and stakeholder engagement, working group 2 on standards and methodologies, working group 3 on data quality, review and curation. And I would say data as well in parentheses, because it's really about the quality, review and curation of everything that is in the platform. And then working group 4, which is kind of the technical development and infrastructure. So what's in the back end? How do we make this happen in practice? Working group 1, as we will see now as well, so it's it's the governance, it's the stakeholder engagement, but it's also supporting the fundraising, because we know that it will be, we will need resources, also financial resources, to get this platform off the ground. So in the next slides, I will talk a bit more about the practicalities of what we know today. How do we think we need to start advancing on this, and what specific elements have we already thought for these different working groups? But again, just to be super clear, we probably don't have it all fully right, most likely. So any comments on anything else that you think would be needed to be considered are very much welcome today and in the coming days, in writing, if you prefer. So just to give a bit of an idea of what we hope we will see happen in this final quarter of the year. We have kind of the middle thing is October and November. We don't you think that we've forgotten a month? But the idea is, of course, we're kicking off today this dissemination webinar, and next week you will have already heard we're hoping to have specific meetings for each one of the working groups on the related webinars from Monday to Thursday. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, we're going to have more in-depth discussion about each one of the 4 working groups. So, well, you can already start blocking your time if you manage from one week to the next. But of course, that's going to be the start. It's not the end. So if you can join those working groups, that would be fantastic. But the idea is that this work is now starting. We're hoping that during we don't have much of September left, but we have some initial ideas of the terms of reference for each one of these working groups. In the initial meeting or meetings of each one of the working groups, we're expecting to have a bit more detailed terms of reference for each one of the working groups. And the idea there is, okay, we've started, and we will see it now in the coming slides, we've started crafting what the deliverable from each one of the working groups should be. We still have not costed how much it will cost for each one of the working groups to deliver what they are supposed to deliver towards a global platform. So that's what we hope that participants in these working groups will help us. The idea is to help in defining what the working groups need to be doing, and then as well, each one of the working groups will provide input to a blueprint for the platform. With the idea, we're wanting to have a first version of this blueprint that is kind of already a relatively detailed blueprint or a map of how to get to the global LCA platform. We want to have this by the end of the year, because that's what really can help us then identify what is missing, what is the gap in terms of the tools, the technologies that still need to be developed, or the specific protocols that need to be developed in order for this global LCA platform to work. The idea, of course, and don't get me wrong, the idea is that we can already do a lot of the things just using initiatives that exist, or we may already have some of the solutions in existing mappings or frameworks or systems that exist out there. The idea is to identify them during this work in October and November. Each one of the working groups will be delivering this kind of knowledge from their own scopes, from the scope of each one of the working groups, and providing that information to the centralized blueprint, which is going to be led by working group 1. And we'll get to those details now. But the idea is we can already advance on some of these things, but we obviously are we understand that a lot will need to be worked out as well in the coming months, possibly years. And we want to have a good plan for that, because the idea is that then when we have this blueprint, we can then also talk to member states, talk to funding partners as well from the private sector, to sell the idea of, okay, this is what the global LCA platform will deliver. This is what we can do. This is what we need in order to make that happen, and in order to generate all the benefits that this global LCA platform can generate. We have quite a lot of clarity of the next steps until December and probably first quarter of next year. But the idea is that in this time, we want further description from each one of the working groups in terms of how long it will take, how much it will take in order to deliver what we need to deliver. just as a reminder, I don't see hands. So if anybody needs to jump in, I'm hoping that I will be alerted also by my colleagues if any hands are raised. Otherwise, I think in any case, the idea now is I'm going to go through the 4 working groups very briefly, and then we'll open for discussion. Unless I'm just stopping for a second in case there is anything, but I don't hear or I don't see it.
There are no hands up at the moment, Lawrence. There were some questions in the chat to which we are responding already.
Okay, that's great. Thanks, Archana. Thanks for confirming. And again, I mean, if at some point you think it's worth to stop and maybe take a pause, that might be better. But otherwise, I'll just go and then describe. So this working group 1, as mentioned, it's about the platform governance and stakeholder engagement. As you can see, this is, I mean, obviously we put it as working group 1 because we think that's kind of the thing that brings everything together. The idea is definitely to design a governance and engagement framework which is inclusive, transparent, and sustainable. Sustainable as in, you know, we need to sort out also a business model. We're focusing this platform, and maybe I should have said that before. The key goal for this LCA platform is to facilitate access, which is open access. So facilitating access to data that are free, that are available. Most of the times as well, it's kind of government contributed data. But maybe we also need to find a business model in which we are getting some resources as well for this data. That's not something that we have sorted yet, and that would be very much the work for this working group 1 to decide. This working group 1 is also the one in charge of synthesizing all the contributions from the other working groups into the blueprint. So the idea is one key deliverable for this working group 1 is to have a blueprint by the end of this year, while they are also working on the overall governance and stakeholder engagement framework, but they will also be putting together this blueprint. And as mentioned also earlier, the working group 1 is in charge of leading the fundraising efforts to deliver the platform. And this, we're hoping that it will already start happening as of now. I mean, well, to be fair, it has already happened. We are already talking with potential donors. Donors that perhaps don't need yet to have the full blueprint, to have the whole idea of what this will cost, to know that they are actually very interested. And we have heard from several funding partners that, yes, they are interested in this, so probably they are ready to start funding. But then the idea is to have a blueprint and then in early next year, organize more kind of coordinated donor meetings to do this fundraising. It's not just about fundraising, although that's extremely important, as you all know. It's also to ensure that there is enough stakeholder consultation and revision of the blueprint, revision of the model that we're putting forward to ensure that stakeholders feel part of it, that they feel, okay, this is really something that will solve our problems. This is solving something that we need. And for that, of course, I mean, one key element as well is to define this unique selling proposition of this platform, which, well, we kind of have an idea already in mind of what is unique about this platform. And hopefully that's kind of being conveyed through the vision. But we need to make that very crisp and concise in order to bring in other funding partners. So that's about working group 1. And of course, I'm making these descriptions here, hopefully, to get you interested in joining one or more of these working groups. And it's not just about joining and, you know, expecting marching orders. We're also hoping that some of you will want to co-lead these working groups. And at the moment, I mean, it's not, again, it's not carved in stone. Normally, if we have 2 or 3 co-leads per working group, that would be ideal. We're going to also try to ensure that there is, you know, balance in these co-lead roles. As you know, when you work with UNEP, we want as well to have geographical balance, to have balance in terms of expertise of stakeholder constituencies, gender balance, of course. So yes, that's kind of, we're making these descriptions for you also to be engaged and to want to join, hopefully. Second working group on standards and methodologies. A bit more concise in terms of what we want to achieve, but essentially it's really about the technical and methodological backbone of the platform in terms of the schemas that we want to be using here. The methods, how do we bring the methods together? What are the database practices that we already see? How can we make sure that we can host these different elements while facilitating interoperability and facilitating the access to all of them? So certainly we have kind of this idea of between now and December, the idea is to start mapping what's out there, how we could bring these things together, and obviously then provide the inputs for the blueprint in terms of, okay, this is what exists, this is how we think we could bring things together. And then in terms of the blueprint is, okay, what would need to happen in the first half of 2026? What would need to happen later? How much is it gonna cost? Do we need resources actually to bring these things together, or actually by providing a forum space, all of these different schemas and methods and initiatives can already start coming together to have a common solution without any need for further funds. I mean, that why not? Let's wish for the best. And then, of course, the idea is that during this time as well, the working group will be defining the work towards these solutions for the platform's global interoperability into the future, but that will be defined by the working group. So we don't have all the answers today, as you can imagine. So working group 2, standards and methodologies. Working group 3, and here, by the way, this is my own making of putting data in parentheses. Because I think, I mean, we've been thinking a lot from the data perspective, and that certainly is the key focus of the platform. But the platform is an LCA platform, so it's not just about data sets per se. It's not just about inventory data sets. It's also about methods. It's also about models that can help. It's also about capacity building materials. And the idea is that for all of these, we need to ensure that what we're putting through the platform, that what is available through the platform, conforms to quality standards, that it has been reviewed, that there is curation. And of course, all of this, as you know, I mean, I'm not discovering anything new, but all of this needs resources, needs a lot of time from experts, but it needs money probably as well. In essence, the objective of this working group 3 is to safeguard the reliability and scientific integrity of the data and the methods and the models and the capacity building materials that are shared through the global LCA platform. So that's it can be described very shortly, but it's what comes behind this is quite significant. And again, the idea is to start this work by mapping what exists, what data quality frameworks, review practices do we see as necessary, as most adequate. Then do also a gap analysis. I mean, okay, that's what exists. What is it that we need to do extra for the platform to work and to be able to ensure, to safeguard this reliability and some scientific robustness? Like all of the other groups then, so it's providing this analysis to then define what would be the inputs for the blueprint. Inputs that can already be also defining what the work into the future of this working group would entail. So okay, we have a review method, and maybe in the mapping we identify a review approach that is already working. We can simply translate it. Can we scale it up? Will we need resources in the future? I think you get the gist. I mean, I'm not going to go into all of the details here, but the idea is that the working group will then be defining further what its work plan will be for the next years, as a way to also provide the inputs for the blueprint that needs to be ready by the end of this year. Moving on, and then that's the final working group, which we call technical development and infrastructure, and that's essentially the IT backbone, if you want. So essentially, this is about designing, implementing, and maintaining the technical backbone of the global LCA platform. How is it? What technologies will we need to make this platform work? And again, some of it probably already exists. There are things that we can start using as of today, but we need to do this mapping and identify, are we, betting on the right horses? I don't know if that sentence is accepted worldwide, but kind of where are we putting our money? Where are we putting our chances to identify the types of technologies, the types of approaches to, for instance, to ensure the security in terms of data that will be required for the platform to work. So like the other ones, first is this mapping, it's this analysis, it's these initial solutions that we see can already start working today, or solutions that we need to build from scratch in order to then have inputs for the blueprint in terms of what this could mean in terms of a blueprint to create the global LCA platform. And again, providing then describing their own work in the coming months and years. So hopefully that was clear enough. The idea of the rest of this webinar is to answer your questions, but maybe let me just finalize with 2 or 3 slides. These are the webinars that I mentioned in the beginning. So next week, every day from Monday to Thursday between 1 p.m. and 2:30 p.m. Central European Summertime. So, well, you know where we are at the moment, and you know where you live. So again, it's the same time as today's webinar, but we're going to have specific webinars to discuss much more in detail each one of the working groups. So if you're interested in working group 1, please register for this event on Monday. We've obviously put them in separate days because maybe some of you want to participate in all working groups, and that's great. That will be super welcome. But in any case, the idea is not to have them overlapping. So I just leave a few seconds so you can scan the necessary QR codes if you want. But also just to note, of course, we are going to share the links to register to each one of these webinars right after today's webinar, or well, this afternoon, let's put it that way. So you're going to see, you're going to be able to register, but at least you already know the times. So next week, there's going to be these more in-depth conversations. They will be actually the kickoff meetings for each one of the working groups, and we hope that many of you will want to join them. I mean, we've been hearing from many of you the interest in participating in each one of the working groups. That's fantastic. And we have that recorded, your interest, I mean. But of course, then the idea now is this is the moment when we start discussing the specific things, the specific next steps for the working groups. Okay, so now this is the final call to action, because this is not going to happen without you. We from UNEP, from the team that I mentioned in the beginning, I mean, Archana, Fernando, and certainly others in the UNEP team, also from our colleagues in the digital transformation team, we are all committed to working towards a platform. We see this as necessary, and we see that it's also very much aligned in our work to deliver also the global environmental data strategy. So we have committed to work on this. We're committed as well to seek the synergies with ongoing initiatives. I mean, certainly I mentioned the global environmental data strategy. You may have heard as well of the Coalition for Digital Environmental Sustainability, CODES. We see that this global LCA platform is very much aligned with this ambition of the Coalition for Digital Environmental Sustainability. We are also committed, and that's something I personally do very much, and I get up in the morning, and that's the kind of thing I want to do, which is to raise to the attention of member states that, hey, we need LCA to make policies more sustainable. We need LCA to ensure that the decisions that we're informing are robust and coherent and point to the actual drivers of environmental and social and economic and sustainability. We need LCA to compare solutions, to compare options for policies in a fair way. So that's very much what I try to do, to raise this to the attention of member states, also possibly in the next United Nations Environment Assembly, to say, if we want a robust global environmental data strategy, we need a good strategy for LCA, and the global LCA platform can deliver that. So that's what we're committing, and that's what very much drives us out of bed every morning, and where we want to put our effort and energy. Now the question is, what will you do? And we're asking, Lorenz is asking you for your personal commitment to essentially 2 things, and those very much depend on your skills and your capacities. We're definitely asking for your time and expertise. So well, that's two things. No, it's one thing. It's a time where you share your expertise to these working groups, so you can contribute as well to deliver this global LCA platform. And obviously, we're also asking for your money. We're asking for financial contributions. Obviously, we're not asking for the money from individuals. This is about institutions. So if your institution can contribute to help us deliver this is very much needed. So these are two very specific commitments that we're asking you to make. Help us deliver this by either contributing your time and expertise to the working groups, or I mean, you may do both, but also bringing in the funding from your institutions to deliver, to help deliver the global LCA platform. So that's essentially what I wanted to say, and we can just leave it with the last slide. But anyway, you know about the Lifecycle Initiative, so probably that's less helpful. You have our emails, and now obviously the floor is open for any questions. I will probably stop the presentation so we can see each other as well. And I would like to open the floor and hear any questions. Obviously, also opening it up for maybe initially as well colleagues from UNEP or colleagues that have participated in the initial discussions either in the workshop in Milan. If there's anything that you would like to comment on the presentation, obviously that's also open. But anyway, just I'll leave it there. Thank you very much.
And we already have two hands up, Lawrence.
Fantastic. So please, let's start. Anu Busari is the first one in my list.
Hi, thank you very much for your presentation. My question is regarding the application and selection of people into respective working groups. Several days ago, you opened the application for intended participants, and there is no update on acceptance or non-acceptance of this application process. Would you come up later on to inform those who have registered and applied that they have been accepted into a specific working group that they have selected during the application process, or what's your plan?
That's an easy one. Thank you very much for that question up front, because then that helps solve many, I hope. So just super quickly, you're accepted. Everybody that has applied is accepted. We're not going to do a filtering of applications because we need all the help that we can get. I think that will be something that there's going to be a self-selection as well. Once the working groups advances, it will be seen as well. I mean, there will be contributions where at some point you think, well, actually, I'm not helping much. Well, you can still participate in the discussions, but in the end, the working group will be self-selecting almost how the contributions are being brought in. But obviously, that's something that we work into the governance. So the working groups will continue advancing on their deliveries, on their deliverables. But everybody's brains and hands and skills are necessary for this. So I hope that was clear. So yes, you're accepted. We should have explained we're not going to be kind of sending individual confirmations that people are accepted, but you're all very much accepted, and hopefully you will already be joining some of the meetings next week if you can, if you're available at that time. And from there, you will be in the distribution list of the working groups, and work will be distributed. We still want to have as well people volunteering to co-lead the working groups, and that's also very much something that we hope will emerge organically from the different working groups. And I realize maybe we should take a few questions, but hopefully that was clear enough. And thanks again for your question. Now we have Mujahid Hussain Khan, and I'm not sure if I will pronounce your name correctly, but Mujahid, over to you, please.
Hi, Lawrence. Thank you. Good to see you back from last time from Milan. And yes, I have only two questions. First is with respect to, as you had mentioned on this working group. So who will be leading each working group? Do we already have a member, or it will again originate, or as you mentioned, organically?
Yeah, that's also, I mean, we don't have leads or co-leads for each one of the working groups. I'm also checking, I don't know if Fernando or Archana will have more information about anyone who has stepped forward, as in, I want to participate, but not just participate, I want to co-lead. I don't think we have. That's also something we're very much hoping that this will be, in the discussion of the working group, that will come out organically and spontaneously.
Okay.
If we think that maybe this is not happening, then we will definitely be trying to push from from the background, because at the end of the day, we know we need people, with strong commitment to be leading that work.
Okay, makes sense. Thank you. And the second question is a two-part question. The one is that how will this working group, let's say I wanted to contribute in working group 4. So how will this working group 4 collaborates with working group 2 on schemas, on working group 3, I think on quality metadata? Will there be a shared data interface specification or meetings? The second part is, will there be meetings including this different groups?
That's a very good question. And to be honest, me personally, I don't think we have discussed that much with the group in that sense. I think that would make total sense, at least to have perhaps regular meeting, at least at the co-leads level, probably meetings that can be more open for the groups. But I think this is all more for the working groups to define, okay, we're delivering on this specific piece of work, and that would be super critical as well for the other working groups. So then let's ensure that there is an ad hoc collaboration there. Of course, we're trying to split the work into different working groups simply because there's a lot of things to do. But the whole idea is everybody should see themselves, I'm contributing to the delivery of the global LCA platform. It's not, I'm in working group 4, and therefore I don't care what working group 2 are doing, because we need everything to work in synchrony. I would imagine that at least in the beginning, working group 1 will have a bit more of that role of trying to coordinate and ensure that people are aware. But I think what you're saying is it makes sense to have regular meetings as well, where we're updating everybody on what's happening in the different working groups. Thanks for that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Just to add to what Lawrence was saying, I think we were envisaging this to be more of a role of working group 1, because that is on platform governance and stakeholder engagement. And as the terms of reference for working group 1 evolve, I think this also we were envisaging as a key role of the members of working group 1, the chair, co-chairs of the working group 1, to bring the different working groups together.
That makes total sense, Archana. Thank you. Thank you.
Marcus Berger, I see your hand.
Yeah, hi Lawrence. First of all, thank you for the presentation, and apologies for having a bad Wi-Fi in the train already. I just wanted to ask, could you say what is the link to the previous GLAM and GLAD initiative? So is there further link it, or is it to update it? And I'm sorry in case you said this already, but I was kicked out frequently due to the bad connection.
Okay, no problem, and great to have you, Marcus, and yeah, hopefully now the connection is a bit better. No, very good question, and maybe I should have been explicit. So there is a link. The idea is how to express it better. The idea is we're trying to bring everything together, but we're also, it's not just about bringing together what we have been doing in GLAD or GLAM, where we were already trying to, and you've been kind of very active in that role of ensuring that there is a strong linkage between the inventory flows and then the characters and factors in impact assessment. But it's really to bring things together much more strongly, but also to raise it. And the idea, I guess, in the global LCA platform is we're not limiting ourselves to work on, okay, we want that the GLAM, which is kind of the recommendation as an impact assessment method from the life cycle initiative. We're not just working on that. The idea is, okay, how do we bring together different impact assessment methods that exist to ensure that people can also make choices and that they are interoperable, and that we can be knowledgeable as well of what are the implications of using one method against the other. If you ask me personally, I would hope that eventually in the future there is one method one approach that is recognized as, okay, at least this is one thing that everybody is using. And of course, there's then going to be variations because, okay, now I want to take more of this modeling perspective versus that modeling perspective, and this is all good. But at least we all have a common language and a common set of data and a common set of methods that facilitates that, every study could be more easily comparable. So I hope that clarifies, but definitely there is a link in the sense that we're not abandoning what we have been doing with GLAD or GLAM. We're just trying to build from it to then make something more cohesive.
Okay, thank you very much. That was clear.
Great, thank you. And I've seen, of course, Archana and Fernando and other colleagues as well. I've seen that there's a few questions as well in the Q&A section. Wow, there's actually quite a few. Please feel free to step forward and raise the hand and ask those questions directly.
There is a question.
Yeah.
There is a question in the chat from Selim. Maybe Selim, you would like to ask your question here again. If not, Lawrence, maybe you can address the question because, yeah, this is essentially building upon on what Marcus was asking us.
Yeah, no, this is so sorry, I'm just going through the question. I'm slow reader. Okay, I see actually there's quite a lot of questions, but no, you're totally right, Selim. Yeah, the situation has changed massively, and I think probably for the good, in the sense that there is growing and exponentially growing interest in using LCA, and this is in all walks of life. So perhaps from UNEP, we're kind of geared more towards seeing that policymakers are using more and more LCA in regulatory frameworks, which is good because that drives a lot of demand. But certainly that has also been the case for the private sector in private sector-driven initiatives. And the idea, of course, here is, well, on the one hand, it's good that there's so many platforms and that there is so much interest, but it's also potentially very confusing. Because that can also generate that if there are slightly different requirements to participate in these different platforms and initiatives, then all the efforts that are going to be put in these initiatives are not going to be fully compatible. So in a way, they can also be a bit wasted. And you also mentioned a good point, right? All of these platforms, there is already ongoing investments in those. What we're trying to say is, well, if we actually bring those investments into a global LCA platform that solves the problems for everybody at once, first, it should be cheaper, I hope. But also, we're not going to be having to reinvest in, okay, now we have 5 different platforms. Now let's create another platform that speaks to each one of these 5 and translates things in between the 5. Oh, and by the way, while we were doing those, 3 other platforms emerged. So we will have to do the same thing again. So we're just hoping to bring all of these efforts together into solving the problems once in a way that is acceptable for everybody. I hope that makes sense. And then in terms of expectations, we're hoping that this platform is going to be used by all users, as mentioned before. Again, from the UN, we tend to have this bias into ensuring that policymakers can use more effectively LCA in policymaking, and therefore we need to ensure that this platform is solving the issues from policymaking. But then again, that usually then tends to support other uses that private sector will also have. So we're very much expecting that decision makers will be strong users. Decision makers in both the private sector and the public sector will be strong users. Of course, if policymakers put LCA as requirements in legislation, then everybody else becomes a user, everybody that needs to comply with that legislation. We're very much expecting that academia and researchers will also find this platform very useful, but we're not targeting them specifically. And frankly speaking, I'm also a researcher, or at least I was in a past life. Researchers, they are very resourceful people. So we probably don't need to solve their problem so much, because also a researcher, for the sake of research, can solve a problem once, and they will do it, and next time they solve that problem, they will do it in a different way. And that's totally fine in a research environment. When you want to use the results of LCA to support policy, then you need to ensure that everybody's solving the same problem in the same way, because otherwise that generates chaos. So I would say that probably, yes, users and expected users are all of them, but more a focus with kind of large-scale use of LCA, like in policy or private sector decision-making. I hope that makes sense. And yeah, I mean, other questions I see. Yep. Rufat Mamado.
Yep.
And again, you would all, I mean, please feel free also to introduce yourselves with a proper pronunciation of your names. Thanks.
No, I mean, Rufat is fine. It's pretty straightforward there. Thanks a lot for the presentation. A very valuable and important work, and really happy to be here. I guess for me, maybe it's a stupid question, but what exactly do you mean by platform? Like, is that perhaps an ecosystem where everyone can upload their data and then share that data? So it's a platform for data sharing, or is it perhaps a kind of a database? So I guess what I'm trying to say is, I don't think I'm fully understanding what platform stands for and how it would then be used. Yeah.
Okay, definitely there's no stupid questions. And I think that the exact vision or the exact practical translation of what this vision will be, it's still kind of evolving. But what I can say from what I imagine in it, it's so this platform, imagine as a it could be a portal, a web space where not only humans are connecting, but also machines. So LCA software perhaps could be connecting with this platform, and it could be happening at many different levels. Either as you're doing your LCA study, you're searching for specific data sets. Through this portal, you could connect and you could consult all of the existing LCA data sets that are available out there, at least in an open source way. But it's not just the data sets, because you could also say, well, actually, I'm developing my own, I'm a researcher, or I'm a practitioner, but I'm developing some specific characterization factors to assess, let's say, toxicity from my products. And through this platform, I could access the latest characterization factors, but also the models that are behind the characterization factors. So you could then say, well, actually, I have a new substance that is still not there, and I want to do my own calculations. Can I interact with these models to generate new factors for my own substances? Or maybe, okay, I'm going to work on a specific data set. I want to create a data set for, I don't know, a transportation process that is descriptive of my situation in my country. The platform could be also a space where you have a generic model of a transport data set that is aligned with the transport models of kind of the globally available standard data set for transportation. And you could use that to start your work rather than creating it from scratch. So it's kind of this place where hopefully users can find everything that they need, but also the machines can be connecting, and then LCA data providers can be connecting all the time with this platform to ensure that that their nomenclature flows are following the same standards in terms of how they are being created. I didn't speak, for instance, about the capacity building, but then again, you would have access to resources on capacity building that can be useful as okay, now I'm maybe I'm a technical person, I'm working in the government, but I need some resources to help train my fellow legislators on on getting their full understanding of what LCA means, how they can better incorporate LCA into new policy. So that would be also the space where they can find it. So again, this is probably still very much of a dream or a wish of what it would be, but that's where we're heading. That's what we've been discussing in the last few years. I hope that helps.
All right, thank you. Okay, that makes it a little bit clearer. But I have one more question. So I think it's something also Celine mentioned. There are already harmonization initiatives in place, and also something you addressed briefly. For example, Captain X was mentioned. But also, I think we all probably are aware and heard of that ISO and GHG protocol will be now collaborating and developing a new standard. And I think it's also important to kind of know what's happening there, so that our work doesn't end up being an isolated research case study that kind of was great, but then standard all kind of came in and overhauled the whole thing. So I was wondering if there is any initiative that would allow us to connect to kind of ongoing developments in that space, not simply ISO, but also other data spaces that perhaps have their own PCF standards.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's a very good question. And yes, I think that would totally be the idea. I mean, of course, we don't want to duplicate what's already happening. And for instance, in terms of standards for carbon footprint, well, yes, I don't think we would be starting any new standard. The idea is, there is actually already also very good collaboration between ISO and greenhouse gas protocol. So it's certainly, I mean, in the way in which this needs to be considered, for instance, in the LCA space, that connection, I would hope that this would be happening. I'm not sure if, as UNEP, we will be able to know everything that is happening. And on the contrary, I think you're already bringing a lot of richness. Probably many of you who are here are already participating in these other initiatives that exist. So that's also why we're hoping that you will bring those elements into the discussions of the working groups. And by all means, let's hope that the working groups are not solving something that is already solved, because that would be a waste of our time. So yeah, making the necessary connections. The idea is this is not, we don't want to generate this in isolation. Also, I mentioned that coalition for kind of the digital for sustainability, for environmental sustainability. A lot of these initiatives are also connected already through those kind of higher level coalitions. So that's, I mean, this is a space to bring people together.
Thank you.
Thanks for the questions. And I saw Diogo ready to chip in.
Yes, thanks so much. Hi everyone, thank you for the opportunity to be here. It's a very interesting initiative. Lawrence, I have a question. How do you see the connection of this initiative with the spearheaded platform, the sustainable consumption, production, hotspots analysis, or this is something totally apart of this initiative? Please.
Well, that's an interesting question. Thanks, Diogo. Yes, I mean, we don't see that very strongly connected at the moment. I mean, for those who don't know, and by the way, maybe that's also something we can later share. So the STP HAT is this tool that facilitates visualizing the footprints of countries from a domestic production and also from a consumption footprint perspective. Of course, there is a kind of an area where at the end we're all talking about life cycle approaches, but certainly the type of data that SCP HAT is using is at a much higher level, at the input-output level. There might be some connections as well where we're trying to think, okay, how are you doing life cycle assessments or so-called life cycle assessments at many different levels? But certainly I think what at least the initial ambition with the global LCA platform is much more at the product level or kind of the bottom-up type of LCA rather than these top-down approaches. But that's an interesting question, Diego. I think maybe there's elements there in terms of the criteria as well for review of data that could be that is used in different tools that could be relevant there. So yeah, thanks for the question. I don't know if that clarified, or if you have also other ideas, please go ahead.
Yes, yeah, I'm asking just because maybe this is something to be discussed maybe in working group one, but looking for donors for supporting this initiative. If we connect what we are talking here with the SCP hat, maybe this can create some value for policymakers, for government, and then the government can support or pay for a license to get more detailed information on the sectors that most contribute as hotspots. And then we can see the contributions in terms of product, service, so on. This could be another module of the SCP hat, maybe. This is something that's inside that.
No, definitely. I'm so sorry to interrupt, but indeed, I think that's so. For instance, in the context of a toolkit that UNEP, UNDP, the United Nations Development Program, the UNFCCC worked on. So we developed this toolkit to help countries inform their NDCs, and actually, the SCP hat is the first step. But then the idea, indeed, was to try and say, okay, so now once you identify the key sectors that are driving environmental impacts in your country, you can then go into those sectors to analyze more in detail. And then we were making the connection to LCA. But the problem, for instance, that we found is, okay, we make the connection to LCA, but what resource do we put there? If we put GLAD, somebody that has never heard about LCA and says, okay, so now I know I want to work in the mobility sector in my country because that's really driving the emissions. And then the next step is I connect to GLAD. That's a big leap. But indeed, then making that connection through a platform that could then maybe try to take them a bit more step by step onto, okay, you want to focus on mobility because, from a high level perspective, that's a key sector in your government. In your jurisdiction, how do you then use LCA to inform decisions in the mobility sector that help you drive the impacts? Now, maybe that would be kind of taking more step by step. So, indeed, I think that's an interesting connection. Thanks for that. And I hope that clarified. But definitely, I mean, I think that's a good point as well to raise in the working groups. I saw many hands kind of coming up and down.
There is also a question in chat, Lawrence, from Sumain Ghosh, who is asking if in the global LCA platform, we're only looking at environmental LCA, or do we have plans to also incorporate social LCA?
Okay, that's a question of the million. And I guess, by the way, also, I just realized I'm kind of answering these questions, but it's not like I have all of the truth there. I think we have our hands full already quite a bit with environmental LCA, but indeed, I would not be the one saying we should not bring in also elements of social LCA or life cycle costing. We're seeing increasing demands for it. But then again, I think that will be an important piece of work for working group one in terms of defining the scope. There's also there can also be the approach of saying, okay, where do we focus first, considering also the resources that we have, and then how do we add additional things? Of course, they can also decide, no, actually, assessing all of the spectrum of sustainability is important, so let's bring everything together at the same time. Not for me to decide, but certainly I would imagine that's going to make the task even more complex than it already is. But again, that's just my opinion at this point. Any more questions? Also in the Q&A, I saw that there was quite a lot of questions, and many of them were already answered. So that's great by colleagues. So thanks, Archana and Fernando. I see an easy. Oh yeah, that was also answered. I think all of them are, maybe not. Not all of them are answered. Otherwise, I think Yeah, just confirming. So we have recorded the session, and this will be made available as well for anybody that could not join today. We will be sharing, hopefully soon, and hopefully today, the slides, maybe the minutes of the meeting. I mean, just summarizing what we covered. That might take a bit longer, but today we can definitely share the slides and the direct links to register for the webinars next week. I think I saw a comment at some point. Yeah, I don't have a smartphone. That's a good point. So we will be sending the links directly. That's going to be much easier. But the idea was just to have that those QR codes in an easy way. I'm not sure if also Fernando, maybe you can also share directly the links in the chat so people can already have them, or maybe that has already happened. And otherwise, I think, I mean, unless there's any other questions, we could probably give you back 15 minutes of your time. You've already been super generous with making yourself available for today's meeting. I see also several people have already to leave.
And I mean, just in case if you're interested in contributing and being a lead co-chair of one of these working groups, please do send us a separate expression of interest. You have our emails. And I think to start with that list would be very useful for us to also identify and take it forward from there.
Yeah, good point, Archana, absolutely. Yes, I mean, anything else also that is unclear, please feel free to reach out and ask the question directly as well via email. Also, you've received the TORs in that PDF document. So the terms of reference for what we think would be at least what we understand as the initial kind of working plan for each one of the working groups. But please, if you already have comments on that, feel free to comment that document and send it back also directly. Now I see Martina has raised her hand. Martina, great to see you. Over to you.
Hi, I just have maybe an idea or a recommendation on how to encourage or find people to take over a leadership role. I think it's always good to have lead and co-lead to team that, and also maybe to say it doesn't have to be something that you do forever. It's also expressions of interest that say, I'm going to lead it for the first half year to set it up. And then people that are in the group can step up for another 6 months. Also for getting, let's say, approval for something like that. If this is a temporary engagement, it's maybe easier than if it's something which has, at the moment, not really a termination. Because at the moment, I mean, we are just starting, so knowing the end of what is happening there is not so easy to predict. I'm just out of other contexts, I've seen that then you could find more easily persons to do that.
Yeah, that's a good idea, Martina, and yes, we take that fully. Indeed, I mean, the idea here is, you know, yes, and life is always unexpected. So you might also think I'm going to do this forever, but you know, next year you're changing jobs or whatever. Yes, we all understand, and we're very in that we're already very grateful that you're contributing your time and expertise. And actually, yes, probably better if we have kind of sprinters that help us in the next sprint of 6 months, and then they pass the baton to somebody else. That's totally fine. I mean, the idea here is this needs to be a collective movement, and yeah, there's always relays in the front of those who are kind of leading. That's totally understood, and yeah. Thanks, Martina. Maybe we can make that explicit as well. Although we haven't really described exactly what this co-lead work means, because again, that's also something that might vary a little bit between the different working groups. We definitely recommend to have 2, maybe 3 people as co-leads. You know, one day somebody cannot join, or somebody is going through a period of 2 months where, you know, they've just had a baby and the baby is not sleeping, and that's a moment where they cannot, you know, everything happens in life. So having these 2-3 people co-leading, and then definitely also understanding that, hey, you know, give it your best, and then if at some point you have to step back and maybe just participate, or that's totally fine as well. So please, we encourage you to step forward to that role. That can be also super rewarding, hopefully.